You're listening to The Manning Report with your host, James David Manning. The news behind the headlines.
All right, everybody. Well, it's finally going to happen. Finally, the special counsel, Robert Mueller, is going to testify in an open joint session between the Judiciary and the Intelligence Committee on July 17th. This will not be behind closed doors. This will be out in the open testimony. And this news broke late last night, and a lot of people have been waiting on this to happen. The prognostication of what will take place after Mueller testifies, when the American people see and hear Robert Mueller testify about the actions of Tribulation Trump with relation to conspiracy, collusion, and obstruction of justice, will probably be the most watched television event of the decade. I'm going to ask the engineer if he'll bring up the at least the voice of Adam Schiff discussing this matter last night on Rachel Maddow's show, explaining what all this means and how we've gotten to this point. Mr. Engineer, please.
Joining us now is Congressman Adam Schiff, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Sir, I really appreciate you making time to join us in the wake of this big news.
You bet. Good to be with you.
So let me ask first about this phrasing in the letter that you have sent tonight to Special Counsel Mueller. We consistently communicated our committee's intentions to issue these subpoenas if necessary, and we now understand it is necessary to do so. Should we see this as a friendly subpoena that Robert Mueller believed had to be issued before he could accept an invitation to testify?
I don't think the special counsel's office would characterize it as a friendly subpoena. He did not want to testify. He made that very clear. Nonetheless, they will respect the subpoena. He will appear. He'll be testifying before our committee.
Just to pause for just a second. I wonder if Tribulation Trump is somehow or another going to try to stop Robert Mueller from testifying, because, you know, he stopped everybody else. I mean, he's put down this so-called blanket ultimate executive privilege where nobody's allowed to testify. I think Mueller wants to get the truth out, but will there be some intervening? Will July 17th date actually take place? But I'm going to let you listen to a little bit more about Adam Schiff explaining the processes that have brought us to this point, and we'll continue to give observation as this statement goes forward. Mr. Engineer, please.
In open session, each of our members will have an opportunity to ask questions of the special counsel. And the American people get a chance to hear directly from him and have their questions answered. So I think it's a good result. July 17th is the date we expect him to appear. There will be also a closed session in our committee following his testimony, in which we'll be able to ask questions.
One of the reasons why we're broadcasting this today, because a lot of Trump supporters probably don't really know the ins and outs of what's happening. And I would advise a Trump supporter to, because they think Adam Schiff is a communist, and all kinds of names that Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, and Tribulation Trump has said about him. And he very well may be something, untoward. However, the American Constitution is not communist. The American Constitution, the power of the subpoena, the power of rule of law is not communist. But Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, and Tribulation Trump, and Laura Ingraham, and Jeanine Pirro, and others have made the Constitution, or anybody adheres to it in a democratic way, as communist. So, I'm running this today because if you're a Trump supporter and you're watching Fox News, you're going to get a jangle, if you will, bunch of lies about what's happening here with Mueller and with this subpoena. It's what you're going to get. So that's why, and just try to present this, and maybe we got a few Trump supporters listening, and so you can get a clean version of what is happening. Go ahead, Mr. Engineer.
His staff that may not be suitable for open session.
So the open session testimony, you said, will be for both committees. Will the members of the Judiciary Committee and the Intelligence Committee sit concurrently for that testimony, or will those be sequential hearings with each committee in turn?
There'll be sequential hearings on the same day, followed by private discussions or private testimony in executive session with his staff, but the open portions of the hearing will be back-to-back in the two committees.
The closed session that will happen with your committee following those open sessions, you mentioned that'll be Mueller's staff. Will that be Mueller as well, in addition to his staff? And can you tell us who from his staff is expected to testify at that session?
His testimony will be purely an open session. So all the questions we have for him, we expect to ask in open session. In terms of which of his staff, I can't go into those particulars at this point. But there are any number of areas that may involve redacted material or that may involve a pending case where it's appropriate to ask those questions in closed session. But our predominant interest is being able to shed light on this investigation for the American people in open session with Bob Mueller himself. And that's going to be the predominant focus of our
All right, so we want to get
a
brief, we're going to see how this develops. I think Trump is going to obviously try to stop it because this could very much end his world. I don't know if Mueller, well, let's put it this way. Most people, including myself, have not read the Mueller report, especially segment 2 about obstruction of, I haven't read it. I've heard enough discussion about it. I think I don't know. Listen, I've watched Trump perform obstruction of justice for the last 3 years, so I don't need to read the report. But I think it's important that people, and probably a few of Trump supporters, will see this and realize this man is a dangerous criminal, Tribulation Trump. He is off the rails. He's off the charge. And this is from our judicial attorneys. This is from our head law enforcement agencies, and written in a documented report about Trump's actions. And I think perhaps it'll change a few heads. I'm not sure a whole lot. But Trump will do everything he possibly can to prevent Mueller from testifying. I don't know if he's going to be successful for it, but he very well may be. You never know. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.